Today we are painting a Wizkids Umber Hulk, and we're going to be painting this fairly fast, trying to get back to the original point of this D&D series, and that was to paint D&D monsters fairly quickly because Dungeon Masters have a whole lot to paint. Other reason why I'm painting this fast is because I really don't like the miniature. The miniature itself there's no problems with it, I just don't like the more modern bug-like interpretation of the Umber Hulk. I really prefer the old school version where they're a bit more beefy and humanoid looking. I did make some modifications to this figure, mainly replacing the base, and also I changed his pose, put him in hot water for a little bit, and fixed his posture so he's standing up a little bit more. But onto the paint job. After the primer, we are starting off with a very heavy coat of Vallejo Model Color Flat Brown. Our next color is a heavy coat of Vallejo Game Color Parasite Brown, and astute viewers may know something is missing, namely his base. Quickly realized because he's so hunched over and he had such a large base, I couldn't paint the underside area, so I had to break him off his base and make a new one at the end, just so I could paint the underneath area, so this figure is making friends all over the place. Next is Vallejo Model Color Golden Brown, and we are forgoing the dry brushing now, moving into the more traditional highlighting, at least on the edges of the plates, slightly thinned paint, and layering up our highlights. However, on the larger section of the plates, I am stippling the color on, because the armor plates on our Umber Hulk are very pitted. Using a traditional broad stroke layering method is going to fill in all those pits, which we don't want. We want to preserve that texture. So stippling the highlights on gets us a nice modeled pattern all over the plates. I am following the official D&D paint scheme here from, I think it's 5th edition, could be 4th edition, but at any rate, it's fairly plain. It's pretty much all one color, and I wanted to try to add a little bit more color to this thing to make it slightly more interesting. And so I've started with a coat of Vallejo Game Color Terracotta, and to that I've now mixed in about a 50-50 mix of tan to it, and proceeding to add some highlights to the underbelly. There's some hint of like a fleshy area along the side, and also doesn't make too much sense, but I decided to paint the underarm area the same color as well. And then for an additional highlight, I've now mixed in a little bits of our golden brown. That's the same color we used on the body, so that will help to tie in this reddish area into the main body. So it'll have a slight difference in color, but not be too extreme. So we have our main base colors set, and here's where the fun part begins. Since this is supposed to be some sort of beetle, insect-like creature, I want to add a little bit of iridescent color to it. So we're going to start adding a few different colors. We are starting off with a very, very thin mix of Vallejo Game Color Dark Blue, and proceeding to layer that into the recessed area of all the plates. And about 2 coats is about enough, since this is just the start of our color scheme. Our next color is Green Ink, very, very thin, and we are applying this between the blue that we just did and our brownish golden brown plates, trying to draw that color up a little bit further. And if you're wondering why I used paint the first time and ink for this color, well, don't have a solid answer for you. Usually I use paint for washes when I want the color to be more prominent, and inks where I want the color to be a little bit softer. Since I wasn't sure how much of the green I wanted to work into the scheme, decided to go with inks because the color buildup on an ink is much slower, and I can just repeat it as needed or keep it at just 1 or 2 layers if I want less green. On our terracotta areas, I decided that needed a little bit more shading as well. And since we've already mixed in a little bit of blue and green, to these areas I gave it a thick wash of blue, green, and brown ink, all mixed together with some glaze medium so I can slather it on a little bit sloppily. And just applying that, as you can see, in all the recesses, the glaze helps us clean it off any raised areas as needed. And then returning to the main body plates one more time, decided I needed to blend in my colors a little bit better, so we are going with a glaze mix of green and yellow ink, once again very thin, and applying that all over the plates. Once this is dry, I also did a little bit of dark lining mix, I think it was black and camo black brown, just to emphasize the separation between some of the plates. So we are pretty much done at this point. And to top everything off, here's where we get a little bit creative. The official art has some hairs on the creature, and I decided to add hairs to our Umber Hulk. And this is something I read about just a few months ago about how to add hairs to various models and miniatures. And you can use individual eyelashes, which is something I didn't even know existed. So, bought these a couple months ago. They come in a whole bunch of different sizes. And I got that, and also I got eyelash glue, which is a latex-based glue. I decided to try it. Wasn't sure what was the best way to attach this stuff, but just took the smallest size I had in my variety pack, which was still a little bit long, pulled out an individual eyelash. You just dip it in the glue, and then very carefully and very difficultly attach it to the miniature. It's not the easiest thing to do, and it's very, very hard to see, but it did add a little bit to the miniature. I only did a few on the arms and the back, about 10 or so on the back and just 3 or 4 on the arms. I didn't want to go overboard. This is the first time I ever tried doing this, so I didn't know how it would work out. I was thinking about doing some on the legs as well, but you do need a place to grab this miniature and pick it up, and I knew the lashes would come off, so just the arms and the back. And there we go. There is our hairy Umber Hulk. Very easy paint job. It's only officially supposed to be 1 or 2 colors, and I decided to go with that. So not much to say about this miniature. The hairs, the eyelashes, is something. It's always great when you can learn something new when painting a miniature, and I've learned something new here, which is great because I've tried so many other techniques, but this is something I've never tried before. First thing I've learned: apply the eyelashes after varnishing your model, because I put them on, sprayed my airbrush, my matte medium, through my airbrush, and I blew off majority of the eyelashes. So that didn't work out too well. So this, you're actually seeing the round 2 of the eyelash application. Also, I want to play around with different types of glue. The latex eyelash glue is not that strong. Thought about using super glue, but you're probably going to see some of the whiteness of the glue possibly. They do make black super glue, which may work a little bit better, but I'll save that for when I'm doing some hairy spider or who knows what. But it is something interesting that can have applications down the line. So there you go. There's our Umber Hulk. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Time for go to bed.